No, we're just kind of looking around local space here. I'm gonna
And said
zoom
that
over.
stars are getting easier. We're getting more and more stars between us, aren't we?
Yeah, we were passing through the last couple of weeks a void space between spiral arms, and now we're getting back in towards the spiral arm. Actually, our own, the Sagittarius. There'll be another big void space we have to cross in order to get to the Perseus arm, and that's where folks like C are going to have the most trouble. But where we're headed, yeah, it looks like there's a ton of stars around there. I'm looking at that now, this week's stop. Yeah, there's not going to be any excuse not to find something interesting in all this. As for tactics to find something interesting, lots of people have just different ways of going about it. I think the most common and arguably successful is to restrict yourself to certain stellar classes, and I can actually demonstrate that on the feed here. If you're looking at your navigation panel, and this is centered on where we are headed tonight, there's ooh, interesting. There are 3 stars in that system, a Class M and a couple of brown dwarfs and the Taurus. So, Class M's can have life, but they tend not to. They tend to be colder. Life in the Stellar Forge engine and Elite Dangerous, which again is science-based, needs energy, and the ideal stellar conditions for that tend to be class K, G, and F stars. The yellowish one, similar to our own sun, and not in systems with too many stars or systems with stars that are too big. A's and B's, the big blues, or supergiants, are hostile to life. M's, aside from being a little too cool, are also hostile to life for a different reason. I'm not sure they model this in Stellar Forge, but Class M stars, the red dwarfs, are angry little stars. They throw out massive flares pretty frequently, and because they're cooler, the habitable zone of that star is closer to the star physically. So that means that a planet that can support life is going to be subject to those flares being thrown off by the Class M to greater impact, and that tends to theoretically, it's not going to be friendly. Too much radiation. But all that said, if you want to restrict yourself to certain stellar classes, let's see here. See if we can find it. You can see how you can select. There it is. In map mode, I actually have realistic mode selected here because I just kind of like seeing the stars. When you're exploring, it really doesn't matter so much. But if you do want to restrict yourselves to those stars that might have life or have probability of it, you can do so here under map mode. Select star class, and by default, all of them are selected. But you can turn off things that you know that are very low probability, like brown dwarfs and protostars, like and non-sequence stars, and O's, B's, and A's, and that leaves you just with these guys. Actually, I would put non-sequence back. I would leave these guys on because they're very rare and very interesting. If you ever come across a Cobran or wolf rat or non-sequence, non-sequence is like black holes. So, but yeah, here you go. This is what you want to tell your map. I only want to go to these systems. F, G, K, maybe M's, maybe not, but M's are good to keep in that mix because there are lots of them and they'll give you gas. And you can plot yourself a course that way, and you'll see that change the map to hide all those other stars. So this guy here that's very close to where we'll be, actually there's one that like, wow, real close. What's this? Looks like a Class M. Yep. 2 Class M's in that system. It's going to be like a hop and a skip from where we're landing. And this one has an F, so that's a really good one. That'll be a good one to check out. Just a single class F star has a pretty good probability of having something interesting. That's the trick. So you just change your map. Oh yeah, and I guess the other part of the trip is in map mode. This bottom thing, apply filter to route, like so. With that clicked, and when you go down to route settings and recalculate your route, then it's going to try to route you through the stars that you've selected. So that's method number 1. I'm going to go back here and change it back to realistic mode. Because as I said, I kind of just like the way it looks. Method number 2 is the one I employ, and that's just go everywhere.
True explorer.
Yeah. So what I'll do is, because we have lots of folks on the ship that, have smaller ships and smaller jump ranges, I just leave all these stars within 50 light years behind. Don't even touch them. That leaves plenty of space for the cobras and the asps, rather the cobras and the adders and such like that we might have. And typically what I'll do is I'll go up or down, but I usually choose down. That's the important thing. Think vertical. Most times, a lot of people, when they're out there exploring, they just set a course in a straight line. Galaxy, they think it's flat as a pancake. Well, it's not. It's like 10,000 light years thick. So there's a lot of z-axis to play with, up and down. And what you do is, if you want to go to a place that somebody hasn't been, go down or go up a lot. So
go to the very edge too.
Yeah, go to the edge. Lots of people are working on are doing the edge dancing thing. But I'll go down, a few hundred light years, find something that looks interesting, and for no particular reason, I'll just find something that looks interesting, like a cluster of stars that I can just jump around that are near each other. Like over here, we've got like 10 stars that are kind of close together. That's random. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It just happens that way. So I would pick one of them and go. Use longest jump to get down to that cluster, and then use economical jumps to jump around within the cluster, and just hit dozens of stars. And the trick to that is, you might be thinking that in order to find something interesting or to get paid fully, when you do scans of a system, you have to do detailed scans and everything. Well, that's not true. You do need to scan everything, identify everything with a full spectrum scanner to get full credit for a system, but then you're done. If you didn't see anything that looked interesting to you, move on. You can fly through go to a system, honk, get away from the refuel, get away from the star, and do the full spectrum scan. And it's during that step, the FSS, that I'm making my evaluation. Is this something that I want to spend time here to explore? And more often than not, the answer is no, because as you guys have encountered by now, the vast majority of systems you've seen this before. They're just icebergs or rocks or asteroid fields. Stuff that is common. There may be some unique features, that catch your eyes. Maybe you have a couple of planets that are close to each other that might be worth checking out. Maybe you have a planet that's orbiting very close to a parent, a moon that has less than a half-day orbital period. That's something to look for, because that means that the moon is just zipping around a gas giant, probably. And if you find those, by the way, they're very popular tourist spots, because what happens is you park on it, and orbital mechanics are being modeled as you play. So you can actually park on this moon and sit there and see it orbiting the gas giant. It just is as it zips around. An hour's. If you just sit there on the moon for an hour on some of these, you'll go halfway around this gas giant. It's pretty spectacular. But yeah, you find anomalous things like that, and it's worth checking out. But you're not going to find it in every system. Maybe not every 10. So the trick is, kind of do that scan and have an eye for something that might be interesting. And if it's not interesting, just move on to the next. Because as you can see, there are several billion star systems out here. There's really no reason to dwell on any single one. You're not going to miss anything. You're going to find it again. So, well, that's kind of the, just explore everything trick. You could be, and yeah, some folks do like to explore everything, map as much as they can. And the benefit of doing that is the cash reward. Because if you find terraformable, high metal content, or metal-rich worlds, they pay a lot. And they're worth, if you're interested in the money, going out there and scanning. And also, doing the, if you have Odyssey, going down there and getting biological samples. Particularly out here where nobody's done it, you're getting first football bonuses, you're getting first discovered bonuses for almost every bit of biological sample you get. Nobody's seen it before. So, and that adds up pretty quick. I think Otis also commented on that. You just get a few of them and it's several million credits. So that's for the money. I usually, when it comes to biological samples, unless there's more than 4 or 5 on a single body, I don't think it's worth your time. Unless the body itself is interesting to see. Occasionally, rarely, you'll come across 6 or 7 or even 8 different biological types on a single body, and then it's definitely worth checking out. Because then that situation might mean that there's something particularly rare there, and that's an exciting thing to find. So that's the Odyssey biological sample thing. Of course, driving around the Neosv is its own reward. Tumble, bump, bump, spin, drive off a cliff, all that fun stuff. So
that I have done before.
Me too, many times. Yeah, so hopefully there'll be plenty of places to check out for everybody this week. Because I know the last couple weeks have been a struggle for C and Seraph. I don't know how much he's made it on. But yeah, not having something less than 10 light years away is really hard on a Sidewinder.